You've got a lengthy criminal history with multiple felonies, and you're on parole. At one time, this wouldn't have been a question. In fact, arguably, you should go back to prison for a domestic assault. If you're on parole and you punch your girlfriend in the face, in my humble opinion, that would merit a return to prison, but it doesn't in the world we live in now. First matter we're going to address is People versus Alex Michael Matthews. That's you, sir?
Yes.
Mr. Matthews pled guilty to attempting to resist or obstruct a police officer as a misdemeanor and domestic violence second offense. That plea was entered in late December, and the matter was set for sentencing for this morning. Mr. Matthews is on parole presently, and he's been in custody for, I think, 41 days is what I saw this morning. Jeb Miller is his parole agent. We sent the information to Mr. Miller. I haven't heard anything more from him. Mr. George, what's the circumstances here?
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, in speaking with my client, it sounds like Jeb is waiting to see what this court does. I think my hope is, and my client's hope is that he can be referred to a program here within the county. Obviously, this offense will be a violation of his parole, and there will be a sanction as part of that. But the hope is that he can be sent over to Twin County to access resources not only for anger management, also substance abuse, help with housing, help with employment, because those are really the core things that my client needs at this time. I think those circumstances, maybe some more than others, kind of led him to where he was on this day. I know he didn't want anything like this to happen, but in the end, Your Honor, I don't think that there's any utility in using some type of district court probation or anything like that when he's already on supervision with the Department of Corrections. We'd ask the court to consider the time that he's already served and impose applicable fines and costs. Thank you.
Ms. Davis, what's the prosecutor's position here?
Your Honor, unfortunately, we did not receive any information back from the victim. As is always a concern, we don't know when we send it to the address that we have listed in the police report if it's actually going to make it to her. Definitely putting some more proactive protocol in place to try to find people rather than just sending a letter out. So we're a little, unsure what her thoughts are, but in looking at the facts of this case, Mr. Matthews got quite a deal when he entered his plea, which got him put on parole, and it was multiple home invasion cases. And so he has this opportunity now to be on parole, thought his girlfriend was cheating, so was smacking her around to the point of causing a bloody nose and a fat lip. And she indicated that he had given her a black eye a day or two before. The victim had left and cleaned up prior to the police arrival, and then the defendant wouldn't come to the door, so had to get a search warrant granted after Sergeant Hernandez happened to see the defendant at the top of the stairs. So they made entry, loudly announced who they were. He still wouldn't come out, which is a very dangerous situation for law enforcement when they're going into a home that they're not familiar with to find a person who is on parole, who has just been alleged to have assaulted someone. And he decided to hide in the attic or crawl space and refused to come out after he had to have heard. And this isn't his first go around. He knows how this works. So with that, I think that there should be some punishment from this court imposed, and I would leave that to the discretion of the court. Thank you.
Mr. Matthews, is there anything else you want to say to me?
No, sir.
As Ms. Davis said, this is dangerous for the police. They had to get a search warrant. You, as she's aptly put it, smacked her around. You gave her a bloody nose. You slapped her in the face. They found blood in the house. They had to do a search warrant to go inside. You're hiding in a crawl space. You said essentially everything she said was true. So essentially acknowledging responsibility. You've got a lengthy criminal history with multiple felonies and you're on parole. At one time, this wouldn't have been a question. In fact, arguably, you should go back to prison for a domestic assault. If you're on parole and you punch your girlfriend in the face, in my humble opinion, that would merit a return to prison, but it doesn't. In the world we live in now, it's very difficult to return somebody on a parole violation. On the R&O, I'm gonna order 41 days, credit 41 days. 0 fine and cost concurrent with the DV second. In addition to your felony record, you have previous domestic assault charges. Domestic violence second is a misdemeanor. It's punishable by up to a year in jail. What used to happen, excuse me, is that they would wait and see what I do, and maybe it's still sort of what's going on. And if the punishment is sufficient, it might save you a trip back to the Department of Corrections. I'm going to order 91 days in jail, credit 41, leaving 50 days to serve on the domestic violence second charge. There will be some good time calculated on that. 90 days is 75 days. With good time, 0 fines and costs, and $125 state minimum. I'm going to waive even the attorney fee. $125 or 2 additional days. Once again, we'll provide these judgments to your lawyer or to your parole officer. That may be enough to save you from going back to prison. You'll still be on parole when you get out, as Mr. George indicates that perhaps there's a placement at the probation center or something. I'm not continuing the no contact provision. I simply executed a 91-day sentence. You have an extensive previous criminal history, including, as she indicated, a number of breaking and enterings. You're on parole for some, I think, that happened in 2021. You have previous domestic assault charges. You gave this young woman a bloody nose, a bruised face, and you hid in the attic. In my mind, that merits a 90-day prison sentence, a jail sentence. Perhaps it will save you from a prison sentence. All right, Mr. Matthews, you're good to go.
Thank you.
I did yours first, so you could get back in time for lunch. Thank you, Mr. George.